My name is Machenje Mazoka. I'm the High Commissioner representing Zambia in the United Kingdom, and very happy to have you here at our session. Distinguished guests, esteemed investors, and friends of Zambia, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Zambia Country Session here at AFSIC 2024. As the High Commissioner of the Republic of Zambia to the UK, I'm delighted to showcase the incredible investment opportunities that our land-linked nation has to offer. Zambia is truly back in business. In 2023, we secured $40 billion in investment commitments, a remarkable increase from $8.11 billion in 2022. This growth demonstrates renewed investor confidence in Zambia's economy and our government's commitment to creating a conducive environment for investors. Zambia offers a diverse range of investment opportunities across key sectors. In mining, we're not just talking about copper. We're expanding into cobalt, gold, and uranium. Our agriculture sector, blessed with fertile soil and a traditionally favorable climate, presents lucrative opportunities for agribusiness. We're also seeing exciting developments in tourism, energy, and manufacturing. Now, while Zambia does face some challenges like everyone else, its improving economic indicators, increasing FDI, political stability, and pro-investment policies make it an increasingly competitive investment destination in the region. We welcome you all to Zambia. The country's rich natural resources, strategic location, and ongoing infrastructure development further enhances its appeal to foreign investors. To support investors, Zambia offers attractive incentives. So these include tax breaks, duty-free imports for certain industries, and support for export-oriented businesses. Our government has implemented investor-friendly regulations and established special economic zones to facilitate foreign investment. Today's speakers will provide you with a more in-depth look at the new regulations and also special economic zones, so you'll get to learn a little bit more. In the next very exciting 90 minutes, you'll hear from the Director of Investments of the Zambia Development Agency, followed by testimonials from companies who have thrived in Zambia and some insights into the country. Thereafter, we'll have an interactive panel discussion led by Dr. David Chewe, Fund Manager of the Zambia Export Development Fund, featuring both private sector and government representatives. So quite a wide variety of positions. And I encourage you as the audience to fully engage with the Q&A sessions and to visit the Zambia booth for more detailed information and for a deeper one-on-one engagement with the team, because oftentimes at presentations you don't get down to the granular. Please also be reminded that the Zambia High Commission in London is here to assist you in facilitating meetings or engagements with Zambia after AFSIC. So the discussions can continue, or they can even start after the event is over. And while I'm speaking about the Commission, I'd like to recognize my colleagues who are here. Kasalika Mulenga, he is the Counselor Economic. Yvonne Zulu, she is First Secretary of Trade. Ms. Doris Kofi, she's our Secretary of Tourism. So the three colleagues with whom you have just been introduced to, they are based here in London, and we can always have further engagements after the ZDA team and the team from Zambia goes back home, so we can reconnect, connect some more. So again, thank you for your interest in Zambia. We look forward to partnering with you in our nation's exciting journey of growth and development. I'd like to now call up to the podium Mr. Chimuka Nketani. He is the Director of Investments at the Zambia Development Agency for a presentation about ZDA and the myriad of opportunities awaiting you as you plan out your investment journey into the Republic of Zambia. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Do I have a movable mic? A cordless? So I think I'll need to. Thank you. Thank you, High Commissioner, Your Excellency, for the opening remarks and your kind words, and and again for the introduction. So like she has said, my name is Chimuka Nketani, Director of Investments at the Zambia Development Agency, which is an institution under the Ministry of Commerce and Trade in Zambia. So it's a government agency created under an act of parliament. So in terms of what we're going to do today is just to basically highlight to you what we feel are some of the investment opportunities that are existing currently in the country, and we are more than glad to engage with yourselves after this. So of course we have limited time, so I'll just try some of this slides. I'll just browse through, and of course, like I said, we are more than glad to engage even further after that. So I'll begin by speaking about generally Zambia, right? Zambia at a glance, and of course I need to keep turning my head here. So Zambia at a glance, right? Please move. So I just want to introduce Zambia to you. Kindly move. Is it me to control from here? Thank you. So, in terms of the country, Zambia, this is where we are. It is ranked number 3 in terms of investment attractiveness in the mining sector, specifically according to the Fraser report of 2024, right? We climbed the ladder from number 12 to number 3, right? And if we talk about sub-Saharan Africa, actually it's number 2 in terms of attractiveness. It's the second largest producer of copper in Africa and number 9 in the world. We produce about 1 million metric tons of copper annually. Then, of course, it's the 6th largest economy in SADC, according to the SADC report, and we are the largest producers of emeralds in the world. Not just the largest producers of emeralds, but also we produce the highest quality, the best emeralds in the world. You will need to see them to believe our emeralds. I've heard reports after they were analyzed, some people were doubting, they thought they were synthetic. And that is how high quality the emeralds that Zambia is producing. So high a quality. Please proceed. Or is it me to control here? Right. So that is basically about Zambia. And we believe there are specific reasons why we think you ought to invest in Zambia. And I'll quickly just run through about 10 reasons why we believe you have to invest in Zambia. Number 1, Zambia is a country that has got very good leadership, right? At all levels, starting at the presidency. We've got a 7th president now who is coming from the private sector, His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. And because of his private sector background, it gives us an edge because he understands what the investors actually needs, and he's able to provide the serious reforms that have happened in the past few years from the time that he took over, reforms that are benefiting the investors, right? So very good leadership that we have, and at all levels of governance. Like I said, private sector driven policies because of his background, and it's a country of immense political stability. We are in the midst of, about 8 countries in sub-Saharan, in Central Africa, Southern Central Africa. High stability politically. We have been, we attained independence from Britain in 1964. So for the last 60 years, actually Zambia this year is celebrating, as you can see in the middle there, we are celebrating what we are calling Zambia at 60. So for the last 60 years post-independence, the country has known nothing but peace and stability. In fact, at some point, it was even known as the oasis of peace in Africa, right? So you need to come and experience the peace and stability of Zambia. And not just that, we are in harmony with all our 8 neighbors, which is a plus for investors. To us, it's a strong point because we believe We understand no investor wants to take their resources to where there's instability. 60 years of stability is a plus. And of course, you've got the chance to repatriate all your profits to whichever destination you want to send your profits. Available skilled manpower, favorable tax regime. We have some infrastructure, and it's a country that has got low cost of production. I think you did see in the video, we'll speak a little bit about it, the fact that we've got very abundant land. Zambia has got 750,000 square kilometers, right? 750,000 square kilometers. And roughly, maybe that's about 75 to 80 million hectares of land that Zambia has. Very abundant land with a population of just about 20 million people, now 21 million people. That is the location for Zambia, for those that may wish to know where Zambia is located, right? And yes, I've said Zambia has a population of 21 million people. And in terms of critical mass, yes, we may think maybe that is a small market, but I think we have a very huge advantage because of our location, as you can see. So 8 neighboring countries give us a population in excess of 300 million people and a GDP close to $1 billion as market for the products that investors would want to develop or to produce in our country. And of course, we can look at all the other regional blocks that Zambia is a party to, COMESA and the entire African region, 1.3 billion people and all. But our first market is the regional market in SADC. It's very important for me to indicate that if you look at the top part of Zambia there, where it's got an inlet, I think there's one country that has entered there. There's a province for that country that is up there. That province has got about 25 million people. And that province is a huge market for Zambia, right? So we have 21 million people, but we also feed that province that is there. So we're talking about 50 million people that are directly supposed to be serviced by Zambia as a market. We are very well connected, right? So no need to worry about how we are going to come in terms of bringing our equipment and other things, and how you are going to ship the products out. We have so many corridors that are existing. If you look at the blue line to your right into Tanzania there, that is the dark corridor. We've got the blue one, the dark blue into Namibia, the Walvis Bay corridor existing already. We've got the Trans-Zambezi corridor as well, the north-south, which is into Durban, South Africa there. Just so many ways in which you can connect into Zambia. That is by rail and road. The red one to your left is Lobito Corridor, but we'll speak about it in the next few slides. So in terms of connection, no need to worry for the country. Even in terms of air, well serviced, right? These are some of the airlines that service Zambia from all over the world. Emirates, Qatar, Rwanda Airways, and name them. So all these have got access to the Zambian airspace. Zambia has got 3 international airports, one in Livingstone, near the famous Victoria Falls, right? We've got one, and of course the Lusaka International Airport, which is the main airport. So connectivity is a given for Zambia. So this is just some of the highlights about our country, Zambia. We are more than glad to present more information where you may need to understand about the country. It's a country of 72 languages or tribes, right? Living in harmony, in peace, 72 different tribes. But of course, our official language is English. So I'll go into now the investment opportunities that are existing in the country, and I'll speak to them according to sectors, and I'll start with the agriculture sector. So, like I said earlier, Zambia has got about 75 to 80 million hectares of land, of which 42 million hectares is arable. Very good land, good water, good soils, 42 million. Unfortunately, I don't know whether it's unfortunately or fortunately, out of the 42, only 7 million hectares is currently under cultivation. So that tells us that about 35 million hectares is available, generally speaking, for investors in the country, right? 35 million hectares of land, good arable land. We have 45% of fresh waters in Sub-Saharan Africa, we've got lakes and rivers, for example, Kariba Lake, the biggest man-made lake in the world. So provides us with all that fresh water, which would be good for irrigation despite the climate change impact. And of course, we've got very good government support for the agriculture sector, and government has been trying to harmonize most of the policies. And in one of the ways in which the government has been trying to attract investments into agriculture sector is by setting up special economic zones that are extending into farm blocks. I think you've seen the video. We'll speak about them a little bit as well. So that is about the agriculture sector. Now, speaking about the farm blocks, again, like the video said, I need to emphasize here, out of the 42 million hectares of arable land, the government has deliberately set aside 1 million hectares for our investors. And this 1 million hectares is spread across the country according to the red dotted spots that you can see. So on average, Zambia has set aside about 100,000 hectares of arable land in each of the 10 provinces that the country has. And this land is available to both local and international investors. And it's very easy to access. You need to apply through the ZDA, and I am able to provide, more than glad to provide with you the details in terms of how you can apply and access that land in Zambia. I'll not go into the details, but there are three main key agricultural value chains that the country is focusing on. Maize is number one. Currently, we're producing about 3 million metric tons as a country, and the goal that the government has given is to up the production to about 6 million hectares. Like I said, to also provide for that province I told you about that is just above Zambia, that has got about 25 million people. So huge potential for export and huge potential for consumption, because that is our staple food, maize. And soybeans is another value chain of interest that the government has set up, and the government wants to ramp up production to push it to 1 million hectares. Currently, crushing capacity is 850, but production capacity is around 300,000 metric tons, and government wants to increase it by 600,000 metric tons. Wheat also is another value chain that the government is focusing on. Now, I haven't spoken about the other value chains like beef, poultry in terms of eggs and meat, as well as aquaculture. These have got very huge potential in the country, and the conditions for setup for these are very good, so to speak. So these are some of the other key areas in the agriculture space that investors would want to focus on: financing to the agricultural players, right? The traders, the actual farmers, provision of production, manufacturing and assembling of irrigation and other mechanical equipment for the sector, and storage facilities, silos. So again, Zambia in terms of storage facilities is lacking behind. A lot of production is happening, but most of the products, actually, I think an estimate is quite significant, that goes to waste as a result of lack of storage facilities, and so provides a lot of incentives or opportunities for the investors to come and put up storage facilities and get back their very good return, and agro dealerships that we can speak about. Let me speak about the energy sector, again, in about 2-3 slides. So the energy sector, by the way, currently Zambia is going through a very hard time in terms of energy, because we have the worst drought in the last 40 years that has hit the country and the region. And 85% of power in Zambia is generated from hydro sources. And you can imagine the impact now. So it's only a few hours of power that are available currently as we speak because of climate change issues. And so much as we are grappling with this power shortage as a country, I believe you're able to see the investment, right? Very huge, especially in alternative energy, wind, thermal, solar, and all the other forms that I may not even know because I'm not a technical person, all the other forms of energy production. You've got an opportunity to come and do so in our country, right? So it is projected that, first of all, the installed capacity currently in the country, assuming we have got good rains, right? So the installed capacity for power is about 3.75 gigawatts, right? That is what we produce in a good year, in a good day. Now, the projection and estimates by the government is to push up the production of power from 3.75 gigawatts to 10 gigawatts. And the reasons are given there. It is expected that mining is going to consume, and mining is the biggest consumer, by the way, of power in Zambia, the mining sector. So mining, as you will see when I speak about the mining sector, is expected to grow in terms of demand up to 2030. Agriculture, as a result of irrigation, which we are promoting, is expected to consume quite a significant amount going into 2030, 2031. So again, there's a 6 gigawatts available in terms of power opportunity for production in Zambia in all the sectors. Hydro, we have profiled already some hydro power points where Zambia can generate, where investors, let me say, can generate hydro. In terms of solar, we've got some of the highest irradiation as a country in Africa. And also when you talk about wind, we've got some of the advantages, and so all these are available. It's important for me to indicate here that the market potential has been estimated to be about to grow to about $775 million in terms of sales revenue by 2030, right? So this is quite a huge amount for the investors that they can tap into for the country. And remember, I already indicated that a huge chunk of that is consumed by the mining sector. In terms of electricity connectivity penetration as a country, we're just at about 30-40% access. Yes, there's an opportunity there, but for the investor also, we are saying even the mining sector has got huge opportunities. There are reforms that have happened in the energy sector in Zambia, right? For example, the government has made the transmission system free for everyone, right? The open access regime. And so you do not need to worry about your off-taker when you put up your power project in Zambia anymore, because you can use the existing infrastructure to wheel your power to whichever customer you want to, whether within Zambia or to the regional market where you are able to find, and that gives you also an opportunity to negotiate your own tariff as you do so. So a lot of reforms are happening in the energy sector, and the government is providing lots of incentives just to ensure that our investors are comfortable with the sector. Now, I think this is mining. So this is about the mining sector. I'm sorry, I've removed the slide that talks about the subtitle mining. And so in terms of the mining sector, I've moved to the mining sector now. This picture just gives us an indication of how well endowed in terms of resources, mineral resources, the country is, and how they are spread across the country. I've already indicated we have been in the mining business the last 100 years as a country, and we are fairly well experienced in the mining sector, and we are inviting more people to come and participate in the mining sector in Zambia. So you can see some of the minerals available in Zambia. Copper and cobalt are two of our most traditional mining products, but we also have the critical minerals, right? We've got the manganese, especially for the EV battery sector. We've got the manganese, we've got the lithium in very huge quantities, we've got graphite, we've got nickel, huge quantities, and Zambia is trying to exploit some of these critical minerals and see how the EV battery value chain can be developed in Zambia. We know, I'm very impressed, I think I've seen quite a lot of, for example, buses and just, cars in London here. Most of them have already transitioned to electric vehicle. We haven't yet done so as a country. Maybe we have one or two, but I think it only shows us where the world is moving to. And for us, and I was speaking to one of the citizens here, they were telling me that I think they have a goal up to, is it 2025, 2026, to sort of phase out, the diesel, petrol, and so on completely. And that presents us with an opportunity as a country in terms of the electric value chain, electric vehicle battery value chain. So we are more than glad to provide with you additional information as well. And from the copper value addition space, which is our traditional mineral and export, these are some of the opportunities that you'll see from the copper wire parts in terms of processing. Despite producing 1 million metric tons of copper annually as a country, we only have 3 entities that are producing copper wires in Zambia, right? So huge opportunity. One of our neighboring countries that has got no copper whatsoever has got over 30, 40 companies producing such. So it's an opportunity that I'm presenting to the investors here in terms of what is existing in Zambia. We have the copper in abundance. The recycling of copper also is a huge sector, as well as the copper beneficiation process. I've spoken about the EV battery here, okay, because I've got a lot of passion here. And like I said, first of all, Zambia as a country has got about 700,000 units on the road cars currently. And now when the process to move from the current, combustion engines to EV battery begins, just as a country, we have that opportunity. First of all, I've already spoken about the regional market, and also globally to feed the bigger markets, Europe, the West, and the East. So we have the critical minerals, and we are glad to have further engagements around them. I'll mention them again, I think, when I speak about the infrastructure sector. In terms of the pharmaceutical, again, we have a huge opportunity for those that would want to manufacture drugs for human beings in Zambia. We have got about 3,000 health facilities, about 361 private health centers, and those are some of the drug dealers that we have in the country to save the 21 million people. And there's a gap that is existing, right? Only 6 companies are known currently producing drugs, pharmaceuticals in Zambia to meet a population of 20 million. That's not sufficient, right? Huge opportunities there, and we can discuss that further. In terms of tourism, again, both for pleasure and for tourism, these are some of the opportunities that are there in the country. Very well endowed, 36 game management areas, 20 national parks, over 1,800 animal species, home to the mighty Mosi Otunya or the Victoria Falls, and very colorful traditional ceremonies and so on and so forth. The largest bat migration in the world, or you'll find it in Zambia. It's called the Kasanka bat migration. And even in terms of the animals, the world's largest mammal migration, the wildebeests, are found in Zambia in the western part of the country. So we can go on and on and on to speak about some of the opportunities that are there in the tourism sector. But in terms of the opportunities, right, for the investors, we lack in a sufficient number of accommodation in terms of lodges, in terms of hotels, and and so on, including conferencing facilities. And I'm just highlighting some of the projects that would be of interest in the tourism sector, right? So Zambia wants to put up another convention center, right? We are ripe. We have one in Lusaka that was put up about 5, 6, 7 years ago, but there's still room because we want to take advantage of our central location and just ensure that Zambia is able to do most of these events, like the AFSIC event we are having today within the region, and those are some of the indicative costs that are given. And these projects are open to different models, others on joint venture, PPP models, and so on. We also have opportunities around the Lobito corridor, and I am glad that there's already an entity here that is already playing in the Lobito corridor space. And the Lobito corridor, ladies and gentlemen, is a corridor that is being sponsored, that has got a lot of interest from, including the United States government, right? So they are facilitating development of the corridor, and this corridor is very important and critical and presents a lot of opportunities for investors. As you can see, Zambia there to your right, where it says Ndola, of course there's a name there, Zambia. So that is the starting point. And the starting point is where our traditional Copper Belt region is. And the Copper Belt region cuts between Zambia and the DRC, right? And the critical minerals are also found in that particular region as well. And so the Lobito corridor is coming in as a very critical infrastructure to supply the West, right? So it's going to cut down in terms of the distance when exporting those minerals by rail significantly. If you look at the distance in terms of the corridors that I showed you to Durban, South Africa, that's a very huge distance. So the Lobito corridor is quite an attractive corridor and presents a lot of opportunities. So for example, there's a 580 kilometers from where it says Ndola to where it says Luakano. I hope you're able to see where you're seeing the two lines more like branching and joining. So where they are branching from that point, Chingola, to where it's joining again, Luakano. That dotted line is the line that Zambia is interested in, and is about 580 kilometers. And so the opportunity here is the actual construction of the line, and of course, the associated development that will come with the line. So quite a lot is expected to come up there. And like I already indicated, the three countries, Angola, Zambia, and the DRC, have already signed an MOU and are working with other partners, including Britain, Europe, EU, the US government, to finance construction of this project, and it has gained a lot of momentum. So the line into the Congo is already existing, but needs a lot of maintenance or renovation, and so it's being done at the same time with a new line that is to be constructed in Zambia. So these are some of the opportunities that we expect to see around the corridor. Like I said, the rail infrastructure, the actual construction, and there was an estimate of about $1 billion, right, to put up that line, 580 kilometers. Fundraising is being undertaken under the auspices of the US government, like I've said already. There's also road infrastructure within that region to interconnect various points, and logistics centers, warehousing, and so on, that would be expected to support the rail line. So we are more than glad to do that. And of course, the models are different: PPP, joint ventures, and so on. So that brings us to the end of the short presentation. Like I said, I'm more than glad to, engage whoever would be interested in any of those sectors that we have provided, and we are still available. We are contactable on the following numbers. That's our website there, ZDA, and like I said, the ZDA is a point of entry for the investors in the country. We do a lot of facilitation. We are there to facilitate immigration issues, and other sectoral information that you want to know, opportunities, how to set up your business in Zambia, where to start from. We are there to provide that facilitation for anybody that is interested. So please feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you so much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Nkatane. So that was a very detailed and I think quite a comprehensive look at the opportunities in Zambia and the various sectors. And of course, you can have an even further deeper dive with one-on-one meetings. We do have a meeting room here on the first floor, I think on the ground floor. So if you do want to meet with anyone from ZDA to have specific conversations, you can just go to the booth and make an appointment. But now we're going to move on to some testimonies. So these are from companies who are already invested in Zambia, who have been in Zambia some for many, many, many years. who can kind of give you some insight into the benefits of having your company in Zambia, and just to give you some on-the-ground information around what has happened over the last, I think in Trade King's case, it's 30 years? Yes, 30 years, and how the company has flourished. So we'll start off first with Mr. Shahzad Khan, who is going to speak to us about Trade Kings. Thank you.
I'll do the clicker. Okay, brilliant. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, High Commissioner. Comprehensive introduction. I learnt a lot there. Thank you, Chimuka. For the avoidance of doubt, there's no drug dealers I know of in Zambia. So let's just clear that up. Africa's leading privately owned FMCG company. Testimony to what Zambia can offer you. I think this is a great case study. Trade Kings, I hope, will reflect what Zambia can offer you and what is capable in industry. In my opinion, you'll see that some of our products and the quality of our brands is up there with FMCG players like Nestle, Procter & Gamble, so to see. If we could have the next slide, please, the video. It worked. Hope that gives an idea of the magnitude of the company. Particularly what was good to show you from the drone video is the land that the company occupies, which is part of the enterprise zone that we have, and we've availed that opportunity. There's two companies we have. They're one a soft drinks business, another one is our household domestic products. To give you an idea of the benefit of going to a greenfield site with expansion capability, allowing us to bring in the right machinery and equipment. I believe our drinks business, Big Tree, has gone from around 50 million revenue to around 250 million revenue in the space of 4 to 5 years. So it gives you the idea of the scalability potential. Another key point that sort of lends to opportunities in Zambia, but also to the innovation of Trade Kings. With the Ukraine-Russia war, there was an issue of grain, wheat. So we as a group have a confectionery business. So that limited us getting glucose, which is produced by these products. So as a company using, again, my colleagues from ZDA will expand on the enterprise zones, we've invested around 150 million in a glucose plant, and we'll be using the staple product of maize in the country to supply that glucose, which will give us backward integration and a competitive advantage. And again, as a benchmark to what ZDA and the government has supported us with. Okay, so I should look this side and this side. Apologies, I'm trying to do both. Turnover-wise, we're a nearly $800 million company heading towards $1 billion revenue very quickly. We've got 16,000 employees. We're a significant contributor to Zambia's GDP. And the key thing here, which I would like to emphasize, is we've invested over $600 million, our own money, reinvested in production facilities and plant. and that really underpins the success of our growth. So through the company, we have laundry and confectionery businesses. We have a dairy plant, a drinks plant, various others, cereal and instant food, our biscuits and snack foods, and we're even as diversified as steel processing for our infrastructure projects. Thank you. So these are our major brands. These brands across their sectors are all leading in their market sectors. And again, the company's very much committed to its CSR. We've done charitable work, social work, and committed to giving back to the community. This is an example of some of the work we do. Thank you. So mine was a far briefer oversight to give a testimony what Zambia can do, what's possible in industry. So over 30 years, Trade Kings has demonstrated its ability to conceive, develop and sustain world-class manufacturing operations in FMCG. This should serve as a blueprint for Zambia's ability to nurture investment and businesses, which will drive the country's industrial transformational goals. From its Zambian roots, our business will continue to expand nationally, regionally with our neighbours, internationally as part of our growth strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So just a nice example of a proudly Zambian business that's doing well, and I'm sure it's open for investments to grow into the international sector and beyond. Now we're going to hear from Grant Merrick. He is with the Tony Blair Institute, just with his great experience in the agricultural sector, and he has had some strong relations with Zambia over the decades, probably. So at least to give some insight into the opportunities in the ag sector in Zambia, and then even broadly. Thank you.
Morning, everyone, and thank you, High Commissioner. Grant Merrick from the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. I lead our global agribusiness. I think that in Africa, we see a new theme of investment coming to the fore, which is very focused on agribusiness. Lots of non-traditional investors are looking to get into the space, and the reality is it's complicated. It's not so easy. Sometimes the policy environment isn't right. Accessing vital resources like land and water is difficult. Social issues are key. And the reality is, as much as there is an aspiration to invest into agribusiness in Africa, many countries find themselves struggling to set the factor conditions that make large-scale investments possible. I think this is where Zambia really stands out, and I just want to raise a couple of points about what Zambia has significantly done to create a really easy pathway for investors to come into agribusiness in the country. We work very closely with the government to facilitate investments into numerous sectors, but very specifically agribusiness, and specifically PPPs. And I think this is the first interesting point to make, is that the PPP model resonates very strongly with many governments around the world, and particularly in Africa, because of the way that it deals with many of the issues that sometimes cloud agri-investment. Number one, dealing with stakeholders, ensuring that benefits accrue to a broad sector of the population, gaining access rapidly to key resources such as land and water, and really engaging particularly with DFIs. So the PPP model we see is a model which is very replicable in agribusiness across the continent, and the ZDA and Zambia in particular have really created a blueprint through the IDC as to how these sort of structures can be facilitated. Another key point is that Zambia has a successful agribusiness sector that has been operational for many years, continues to grow, and that has substantively de-risked the business. Inputs are known, markets are known, pricing mechanisms have been well developed. There is a very strong support system that really services the sector. And very importantly, there are banks that understand agriculture. In many countries across Africa, when large-scale investment comes into agribusiness, the banks struggle to understand the numbers, the variables that are at play. But in Zambia, this is all very well known. The regional market opportunities, which have been mentioned, are absolutely key. We see the potential for as much as 20% reduction in global grain production through climate change being something which is just around the corner. Zambia creates the opportunity to really have a nucleus of production, particularly within the region, and the market demand we see is very substantial going forward. I think overall, what Zambia has really done well is it's been deliberate about engaging with the private sector. We see many governments struggling with the ideology of supporting both large-scale and small-scale farmers, but Zambia has crossed that bridge. It has opened its doors for large-scale investors into agriculture, and it has been deliberate in its strategy through the farm blocks, through the policies which have been created and updated recently, and currently offers a fantastic opportunity within the continent as an easy place to start investment into agribusiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant, for that overarching look, very insightful as well. We are going to now move into our panel discussion. So that is going to be guided by Dr. David Chewe, as I had mentioned in my opening remarks, from ZEDF, who will then take us through that interactive period. And again, there is going to be an opportunity for questions and answers, so please put them on hold until after the discussion. Thank you. Dr. Chewe.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the High Commissioner, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to stand before you, especially as we try and encourage the investors to come to Zambia. Zambia is a place where you should be. My task this afternoon is just to help bring to some clarification some of the issues that have been highlighted in our pitch as we are speaking to the investors. So I have the panelists that are going to help us to deal with the issues that might give you comfort and also give you an opportunity to seek clarity on some of the issues. But before I do that, let me also just tell you about what I do. The export fund that I manage is actually a creation of the European Union and the Zambian government. And again, a testimony, government trying to seek help to come up with solutions that speak to what the country needs. So the European Union and the Zambian government did run an experiment to try and find a way of finding markets and then also using that understanding to get entrepreneurs to access markets. And this model has helped us to build a number of big companies that are now servicing the international market. We basically want to increase our diversification of the economy, moving away from our traditional exports to try and promote other exports. And in this regard, the model has worked very well. So I am the fund manager. We basically try to de-risk the various economic sectors. We provide financing in form of working capital. And this helps entrepreneurs to increase their sales. And this cuts across the private sector. As long as it's not copper, it's not cobalt, we will be able to finance you. So that is why I'm here, to make sure that we support the agenda of encouraging the investors to come to Zambia, because we help you to de-risk the key sectors, especially as it relates to supply chains, because in most cases, supply chains are disrupted, as we learned from COVID. So we try to find a way of leveraging those opportunities. In the panel today, what we try to do is basically to help us get an understanding of some of the experiences of these entrepreneurs, and also some of their thoughts around what can help them to help our country to attract more investors. So I have a very high-powered panelist, which I will start with Mr. Ziambo Timothy from Status High-Tech. Status High-Tech is a Zambian grown enterprise, but they are actually servicing Zambian and international markets, but it's a fully Zambian business. The next panelist is Mr. Mwenda. Mr. Mwenda is from the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone, and this is a government entity that is helping to create infrastructure for the market, and he'll share with us a lot more details about what they're doing. Mr. Khan, I will invite you once again. You have to come back and clarify a few things about how Trade Kings, our fully homegrown enterprise, has been able to go to international markets. So you're welcome. And my next panelist is Mr. Mondo Chibesakunda, an enterprise, a young entrepreneur trying to generate value through the innovative ideas around building new cities, new infrastructure in the market. And the last but not the least is Mr. Grant Merrick from the Tony Blair Institute. We still have you on the panel. So in this panel discussion, gentlemen, I will start first by my colleagues who didn't make any contribution in form of sharing the testimony. And I'll start with you, Timothy. I did introduce you to say that you are a fully locally grown entrepreneur. Just briefly tell us about what your company does and how that company is helping to fit into the Zambian agenda of attracting investors.
Okay, thank you very much. As already introduced, my name is Timothy Ziambo. I'm coming from a company called Status High-Tech Zambia Limited. I'm the group managing director there. We've been in existence since 1998, 26 years this year, and it's a wholly indigenous Zambian-owned company, very proud of the country that we come from. We are in the space of risk prevention and mitigation. So we are in the space of firefighting equipment as well as safety PPE. Zambia, as you may know, is surrounded by 8 countries, and that puts us in a position where we can send across our products and our initiatives to other countries. And in the safety industry that we exist in, it's quite in its infancy. So the government right now supports the regulatory framework to make sure that people are compliant with regards to safety as well as firefighting mitigation initiatives. So it's a space that is very, very attractive, and safety is broad, it's everywhere. It's the last line of defense, of course, but obviously there's no work that can happen in agriculture, mining, construction, tech that cannot be done safely. So you need PPE, you need gloves, you need hard hats, you need all sorts of things. So it's quite a lucrative place to place an investment in, and we're proud to be supported. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get back to you, but for now I want Mr. Mwenda to just also share with us just a brief about the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone.
Thank you, moderator. As already introduced, I'm Mwenda Masauso. I'm heading the commercial department at the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone. So the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone is the only one that is actually state-owned. We have several economic zones that are actually privately owned, but the emphasis is the 100% owned by the government of Zambia. In that case, we receive a lot of support from the government in terms of infrastructure development in water, in roads, in power. And we also provide a good platform for you to actually come and invest in the economic zone. For starters, it's easy to come into the zone and to set up. We actually run a one-stop shop where we facilitate your investment. So briefly, let me end here before I answer all the questions that I actually have. Thank you.
I was still going to find a way of catching you, but thanks very much. Mr. Chibesakunda, you are in the real estate space. Just briefly share with the audience some of the key opportunities that you see that you're trying to exploit.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, my name is Mondo Chibesakunda. I operate in actually two key growth sectors, so real estate as well as renewable energy. Thank you. Our company basically focuses on growth points within Zambia. We consider ourselves to be quite innovative and forward-thinking. So about 6 years ago, we actually started exploring some alternative power solutions through our holding company, setting up renewable energy solar plants in Kitwe, which are close to a lot of the potential off-takers and the load-bearing sectors. So essentially targeting the mines and also export into the DRC. Zambia's positioning is quite essential in the region. As the High Commissioner mentioned, and also Mr. Chibuka mentioned, we're a landlocked country, but we are considered a land-linked country because of our extensive ties into 8 neighbors, especially the DRC. We have a lot of interest in offtake of energy into the DRC from Zambia, as well as other countries within the region. So I think at the moment, obviously, we're experiencing some power deficits within Zambia, which we're focusing internally on trying to contribute as much as we can to solving the issues that we're experiencing as a country, but also sort of tying in with what government, what ZDA and other agencies are requiring of us to help in some of their initiatives also. As far as real estate, we have been in the real estate business since 2008. We've established 3 commercial office units within Lusaka, and we've since diversified, trying to target residential mixed-use developments with the view of expanding towards 2050. We know that we have very limited space in Lusaka. We're a city that was built for an initial population of about 500,000 in 1964. And currently have about 3 million plus people, expected to be about 6 million by 2050. So 2 of our residential mixed-use developments are targeting some of those growth points, providing housing, both social low-income housing for your working class as well as your middle to high income, and providing them with essential services, your running water, electricity, and lifestyle amenities such as golf courses, hotels, etc. So,
interesting submission, talking about energy, talking about housing, and other real estate type of offering for investing public and especially the international investors. So it would be nice to get a lot more insight when we get to that point. But at this stage, Mr. Merrick, I like the way you actually made your testimony, because you were basically trying to highlight what you saw as an opportunity, and this is an opportunity arising from favorable policy and also relating to government having a demonstrated commitment to resolving some of the key issues as they relate to social issues. And I thought this was very, very interesting sort of submission, but I would like you to sort of put a perspective, because whenever investors are going to countries, one of the challenges they face is the same issues we talked about. The policy is not consistent. There are social issues, maybe labor, maybe just the cultural lack of understanding of the culture. I would like you to just put, if you like, a perspective. Share with us one of the challenges you may have come across whilst you were trying to set up and especially that you are in a sector that is very, very interesting. Zambia is largely, small scale production. How are you actually making sure that you give the confidence to the investors that they shouldn't be scared, since you've already broken ground? I want you to, I think, spend a lot more time talking about some of the challenges that you faced and how you are able to overcome.
Thank you. Interesting question. Going back to my starting comment, I think that the green revolution in Africa remains aspirational. The reality is that many countries say to investors, come, we have land, we have water, we have sunshine.
Yes.
But agricultural investors today are extremely sophisticated. They are looking for de-risking mechanisms. They understand environmental, social, and other issues which potentially offer areas of reputational risk. They are needing to look and be clear that government is going to support their investments with infrastructure. That can be dams, roads, electrical connections. And I think where Zambia has really excelled is in particular through its farm blocks program, where it has tried to address some of these core issues up front. So what you have there is the opportunity for investors to come in and to access land, not by paying and spending a lot of capital, but rather going into a simple lease agreement with government, being able to access land, and having government as a partner that really helps to take those steps, those initial difficult steps, dealing with communities, bringing in infrastructure, ensuring electrical connectivity, etc., etc. So I think this very intentional strategy through the farm blocks has really accelerated the opportunity for investors to hit the ground and to move quickly. So I would say the biggest thing that really makes Zambia stand out is the sophistication of what they are offering and the structures that are already now in place that support investment at a large scale. And I think in terms of, the offsets between small and large-scale farmers, the Zambian government very well understands the synergies that exist between the two and how large estate investments can actually facilitate communities and facilitate smallholder farmers, particularly in terms of access to technologies, in terms of access to value chains and markets.
Thank you very much. Mr. Khan, when you gave us your story about building a locally grown brand now that has gone international, it was quite an amazing story just to see the level of investment and the commitment by deploying the capital. You've basically been recapitalizing from your own profits. And that's a very, very good strategy. But the question I'm asking myself is, what made you decide to keep most of the profit that you've been generating back into the business? Could it be the policy? Could it be you have something about the country?
I guess this is a chance really for me to confess a little bit. I'm relatively new to Zambia. I've run my own companies for many years in North America and Europe. And so going into Zambia, kindly asked by Trade Kings to head up their national and international strategy, it's just been a pure revelation. Because in North America, Europe, we're all struggling for growth. We're all struggling for margin. Now you go into an area where it's exponential growth, exponential opportunities, and it's different forms of challenges you face in the Western world as against the African regions. But to your point, what I have seen is just great benchmarks for any company. Whether I ran my own businesses, the first priority is to protect your company. With good business practices. They have invested in world-class facilities, innovated with their brands, I think there's a principle the company has, and forgive me, I'll paraphrase it, 3 A's. They base it on availability, affordability, and accessibility. So their whole ethos is to supply the economy where products are available to them. So to your point, I believe they have a foundation with which to leverage, and hence, and I haven't figured out, I'm not too clever yet, so they've engaged me to help them grow internationally and nationally as the second phase of now their growth.
And the interesting thing about your testimony and what you've just said is that you are riding on the infrastructure that has been provided by the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone. And I would like at this stage just to get a little bit more detail from you, Mr. Mwenda. Trade Kings is a testament of how successful you've been in helping them to set up their operation in an area that allows them now to improve on their revenue potential, and yep. I guess it also gives an idea as to the investors what is likely to be possible. I want you to just put a perspective. And the perspective I want you to bring up is, if an investor is looking to invest in Zambia, and one of the challenges that they face is access to critical infrastructure. Trade Kings are saying you've provided infrastructure, but what are some of the critical infrastructure that is missing in the zone, or which you actually have that is not available to Trade Kings but might be available to some other investors?
Okay, thank you, moderator. Talking about the infrastructure in the M phase, so our backbone infrastructure relates to, first of all, power is critical in the M phase. We have a 600 kVA substation that can actually provide power to any investor, no matter how much power you demand. So Trade Kings is actually one of the investors that we have provided that infrastructure to. There is a dedicated infrastructure line that is actually carrying substantial amount of power just dedicated to that infrastructure to Trade Kings to make sure that they're actually operating 24/7. That is also against the background that we have, yes, power shortages, but we have signed a power purchase agreement with our utility provider, ZESCO, and they are giving us 99% of power availability in the M phase. So regarding, in terms of them getting shut down because there is no power, that is actually not there. So they can ride and provide and produce at any given time the quantities they want with the availability of power. We also provide water. We recognize that Big Tree, one of their companies, actually is water thirsty. They demand so much water. We provide quality water. We use our underground boreholes that actually facilitate the provision of water. Now, if we do not have enough water, we actually go into partnership. We've gone into partnership with Big Tree to produce additional 10 boreholes, which with dedicated lines, of course, to them, and also the excess to be providing the other investors in the zone. We also have a good road network in the zone. We are 24 kilometers away from the CBD, which is the center of the business. The road network actually starts from the M phase, the third road, just like what I've seen in the UK, so we have that. It will take the goods into the CBD and connect to the other provinces, of course, where they are actually selling their products. In terms of managing the solid waste, we have a dedicated solid waste service provider in the M phase, so they are not choked with where to dispose of their waste. Including, we also have a well-developed wastewater management plant. Most of the effluent water that comes from their factories is actually treated and sent back into the environment at some levels, which is actually acceptable. In terms of where do their members of staff stay, the zone is actually being developed as a mixed use. We have land for residential development, and Trade Kings is one of the pioneers actually that has got land there, and in the future they are planning to develop houses for their members of staff to stay. So in a nutshell, we have actually provided a very good platform or an environment for Trade Kings to excel, just like any other investor actually would be able to excel in the zone. Before I conclude that, in terms of the cost of land, you may be asking, so how much does it cost to actually get land in the M phase. We have one of the cheapest land policies, I think, in the world or in Africa. We sell our land at a lease fee of $0.16 per square meter. I haven't even found a suite in the UK of that cost. If you are calculating that, that's like $1,500 per hectare per year. So you are literally paying very little, leaving your money actually to invest into infrastructure development. So that is actually on a leasehold of 40 years. It's renewed. Of course, our generation, not even us here, will be talking about renewing that lease. After 40 years, our children will sit down and discuss the next steps onto renewing their leasehold. So we are actually one of the best in terms of providing and sustaining the development of the investors in the M phase. With that, I think I've answered you completely, moderator.
No, you haven't. There's just a follow-up question. This is in relation to earlier on, Mr. Nketani did highlight the emphasis on PPP. And I wanted to just try and find out from you, do we have opportunities for investors to work with you on PPP models? Yes or no?
Yes, we do have.
Thank you.
We do have that, and plenty of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Then I'll move to Mr. Merrick. The reason I want you to help me is more particularly around helping us to tell the story better about why Zambia and not any other country. And in this regard, the sector where you are dealing with the small farmers, or small-scale farmers as we call them, and then you are having to create, if you like, successful solutions for would-be off-takers. How are you dealing with the issues around value chain limitations? Because what we see is that there are sort of limitations. Small-scale farmers produce, but they don't have a market. The aggregators are also having problems. Which are some of the value chains that you're participating in that speak to what Mr. Nketani earlier on indicated, and also your own indication that from the challenges of global climate change, we are seeing a drop in grains, global grains. So how are you helping to ensure that we actually utilize this opportunity?
Well, I think that first of all, when it comes to smallholder farmers, we strongly support that smallholder farmers need to diversify their crops, particularly from two areas of focus. Number one, a more diversified crop selection is more climate resilient, and that's really important. That process of diversifying crops is complicated because, as you say, new crops also require different markets, and very importantly, diverse crops require different knowledge. And so what we are doing is strongly supporting the knowledge side of things through research and innovation, working with government to redirect its research policies and practices in agriculture to ensure that smallholder farmers have new crops being made available to them. And then, as you say, on the market side of things, it's a slow process. Very fundamentally, market access requires infrastructure, and that was mentioned also in the presentation. Storage, processing, and food processing are really areas that have been highlighted by government for investment. We are encouraging investors to come in an entire value chain approach, but also looking at new innovative ways that foods can be aggregated and ultimately stored and taken through both dry and cold value chains. The key is quite simply investment. The technology is known. What we need to do to really open up the markets is very clear, and investment is the lacking ingredient. But I think it is worth mentioning in particular the very rapid market development on exports, particularly into the DRC. And we see government playing a very strong role in fostering those relationships with the neighboring countries and specifically upgrading border infrastructure. One-stop, routes in order to access market. And I think those things in concert are really opening up new opportunities for agricultural products, and particularly new products coming in.
Thank you. I really wanted you to sort of give encouragement to the other people who are thinking about coming to Zambia, that value chain development is something that is of interest to you, and also it's open to the investors. Maybe as we're coming to the conclusion, but I just wanted, Mondo, you haven't spoken as much, Timothy, you haven't, and I wanted to give you just a chance to speak about something that I thought is very important. For you, Chibesakunda, let's talk about the role of fintechs and financing in helping to sort of provide an avenue of investments, because you are in a space where investors are looking for ways to actually generate stable, if you like, returns. So how are you doing that, leveraging on the technology?
Thank you. So as far as fintech goes, the rise in mobile money payment platforms has been quite, it's been astronomical in Zambia in the last few years, but it's also been quite revolutionary for how we conduct our business. I think in the last few months, we've definitely seen a rise in people using mobile money platforms to make payments for services generally, but more particularly for properties. And this basically gives access to a largely unbanked sector of the economy. And basically what happens is people who don't have necessarily the easiest access to open bank accounts have pretty easy ways of opening e-wallets through their mobile service providers. Through these e-wallets, the traders in markets, for example, are able to put money into these e-wallets and make transactional payments. And that's essentially one of the ways that we utilize some of those innovations. As far as what we're doing as a real estate firm is in one of our large-scale residential and mixed-use developments, we're actually setting up an innovation research and development hub. So starting from primary level, going all the way up into tertiary education, and we're setting up a research hub for STEM essentially, which will eventually feed into some of the fintech innovations in Zambia. We're also setting up an light industrial hub in order for some of those human capital investments to realize in a practical way.
Thank you very much. Timothy, your comment around the biggest opportunity in your sector.
Okay, obviously, like I said earlier, safety is everywhere, and regulation has it that it will become compulsory very soon for people to be adherent to some of these issues. COVID did tell us, or did show us at some point how important personal safety is. And that preparedness as a country is something that we're trying to pioneer. And we don't just want to pioneer as a middleman, we want to pioneer as a manufacturer, we want to pioneer as a forerunner in making sure that some of these products are developed within our country. So if Trade Kings can do it to look at some of these FCMGs that FMCGs that are world renowned, and they bring it back home, as Status High Tech, we feel we can do the same in the safety and firefighting industry. So we're actually appealing to the investors, would-be investors, that it is possible. If it can be manufactured in Asia, manufactured in the UK, it can most definitely be manufactured in Zambia. So yeah, that's what brings us here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And taking into consideration the fact that the audience also need to ask questions, I've got a panelists here who have been able to share the insights into what they are doing. It's now your turn to ask questions, to seek clarification on some of the issues that have been highlighted. If they haven't been highlighted by my panelists, we have our High Commissioner and Mr. Nketani would also be available to answer to some of the questions. Let's have a go. Who goes first?
Hi there, everyone. My name's Samson Salmon Bowling, founding director of Open Energy Labs. First of all, I just want to echo what everyone has been saying so far about doing business in Zambia. I've been working in Zambia since 2017 and have also been working very closely with the Zambian government and have found them fantastic partners over the work that we've been doing. So also just like to echo that Zambia is a great place to invest in and work. My question to the panel, I'm not quite sure who to direct this to, so if anyone wants to take it, but just wanted to hear people's thoughts on investor networks within Zambia, particularly at the kind of angel and seed and Series A size, and just wanting to hear anyone's experience about either being an investor or engaging investors in Zambia.
Thank you. Who's going to have a go? Sanketani. You'll probably be you'll be the best person to give an insight into who's actually helping to get the investors interface with Zambia, because
Thank you for that question. So in terms of experience of engaging, investors like the ones that you are indicating, again, I need to indicate that the Zambia Development Agency, the ZDA, has engaged quite a lot of such interests that have been expressed. So both locally, regionally, and also internationally, we have had a lot of interests that have been expressed, and we've been able to engage. So feel free to see any of the colleagues that you're seeing on the panel. They'll direct you to me, or my colleague there. Maybe you can stand also. That's the Assistant Director for Tracking for the ZDA. We are available to, and of course our colleagues from the mission. We are more than glad to, receive you, hand-hold you through the entire process. One thing I never spoke about, moderator, is the fact that there are plenty of incentives that the government of Zambia has provided to different sectors. So for example, you can bring in your equipment duty-free, custom-free. There are incentives around VAT and many others, accelerated depreciation. We can go on and on and on and on. But you can come and see us as ZDA right at the stand, or we can engage virtually post this event. Thank you.
So just for emphasis, for the investors based in the UK, our High Commission will take care of your needs here and then in country through the Zambia Development Agency. Thank you. Any other questions, points of clarification? You can even give us a comment. It looks like everything is very clear. What's left of me is just to thank my panelists. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to interact with you in sharing information about Zambia. And last but not the least is to the listeners. We thank you for your attention, and it's been an opportunity of gratitude for me to moderate this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.